This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, July 11, 1982, almost 40 years ago, and almost 40 years to the day that Italy and England will battle for the Euro Championships. Well, the 2020 title, even though it's in 2021. Italy had a fantastic moment winning the 1982 World Cup. Now, the World Cup was in Spain and all that. Italy, as I said, won the championship 3-1 over West Germany at the Bernabéu in Madrid, making them their third world title and their first since 1938. Well, they won in 34 and 38 in the fascist government of Mussolini. There were some debutantes. Algeria, Cameroon, Honduras, Kuwait, and New Zealand would make their first appearances in the final. It was the first. This was the World Cup of '82, the first time we saw a penalty shootout in a World Cup competition. And this World Cup would feature 2 rounds of group stages, and the knockout stages will only be semifinals and all that. This was also the third time, after 34 and 66, that all 4 semifinalists were European and all that. So anyway, the World Cup expanded from 16 to 24 teams. So you had 6 groups of 4. The top 2 teams in each group moved on, making 12 teams, making 4 mini groups of 3. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? Because, I mean, they should have had like 4 good third place teams and all that. There were some shocking, like I said, Algeria, Cameroon, Honduras, Kuwait, and New Zealand all participated for the first time. One of the biggest shocks was that Holland didn't qualify for the World Cup, as they were actually eliminated by Belgium and France within the qualifying group. Mexico was out, and Sweden, who were in all the World Cups in the 1970s, were eliminated by Scotland and Northern Ireland. So yeah, this was huge. Actually, the 1982 tournament was the last time Mexico and South Korea failed to qualify for the World Cup. That's amazing. There were rumors circulating that they wanted England, Northern Ireland, and Scotland to withdraw from the World Cup because of the Falklands issues and all that. So basically, yeah. The British teams wanted to participate because Argentina could not use their absence for propaganda purposes. So anyway, let's go through the 6 groups. Group 1, they did by numbers first of all. Group 1 had Poland, Italy, Cameroon, and Peru in it. Peru coming off their surprise 1978 appearance where they beat Scotland and kind of threw away their game against Argentina. Italy tied all 3 games, which was kind of stupid, don't you think? There was only 1 game between Poland, Italy, Cameroon, and Peru that ended in a win, and that was Poland's 5-1 crushing of Peru. Every other game was a tie. There were 2 1-1 ties and 3 0-0 ties. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? So Poland, because they won, qualified Italy on goals scored, scoring twice, whereas Cameroon only scored once, got in. So basically, it was shocking how Italy almost didn't even make it. Group 2 saw West Germany, Austria, Algeria, and Chile. And yes, this is the group that had that disgrace of Gihom, as they call it. As West Germany and Austria manufactured a 1-0 game to make sure that Germany and Austria would move on at the expense of Algeria, who, even though they were 2-1, were basically dastardly beaten. Well, Algeria could have held matters by either tying or beating Austria. But anyway, yeah, West Germany played it to win. Austria took second. But this game actually was a good thing because in 1986, not only did the knockout stages get moved from 12 to 16 teams, meaning that there were some third place teams that could qualify if they had enough points. But they made it known that group games on the final day round of round robin will kick off simultaneously so that people can't make assumptions about things. Group 3 saw Belgium, Argentina, Hungary, and El Salvador happen. Hungary didn't qualify. They did beat El Salvador, 10-1 though. Unfortunately, Hungary got crushed by Argentina and tied Belgium. So Belgium won the group somehow. They beat Argentina, which was a massive shock. That Belgium would beat Argentina, the defending World Cup champs. Yeah, Hungary won 10-1 over El Salvador. Kind of stupid. But at least El Salvador scored a goal. Canada never did in their World Cup in '86. Fuck. Anyway, Group 4 saw England, France, the Czechs, and Kuwait. Kind of a group of death, if you will. England ended up winning the group. All three wins with only giving up one goal, and that was to France. They didn't give up to the Czechs or the Kuwaitis. It's shocking how they would only beat Kuwait 1-0, whereas they beat the Czechs 2-0. Yeah, they put 3 goals up on France. That's a shocker, how England beat France and all that. France managed to get in as the second team. And Group 5 saw the host Spaniards qualify. However, the final game of the group, and no, it was not simultaneous kickoff, remember, saw Spain take on Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland shockingly scored a goal by Jerry Armstrong. His shocking goal actually knocked Yugoslavia out of the knockout stages, as Northern Ireland's win gave them 4 points and put them in first place to win the group. Spain took second and all that. Honduras did okay for themselves. They tied Spain and Northern Ireland. They could have done something about it. Group 6 saw Brazil and the Soviets move on at the expense of Scotland and New Zealand. Poor Scotland. As usual, Scotland always falters. It was just goal differential that screwed them over. They scored more goals than the Soviets in the group. But they realized that the only reason why Scotland missed was because of their first game against New Zealand. Yes, they beat New Zealand 5-2. But the fact is that because Scotland gave up 2 goals to New Zealand, whereas the Soviets didn't, meant that if Scotland hadn't given up those 2 goals to New Zealand, which was the only 2 goals that New Zealand scored in the '82 tournament, ironically enough, Scotland would have scored 8 and given up 6 for a +2, and Soviets would have 6 and 4. But Scotland would have got in on goals scored, so Scotland would have gotten ahead of the Soviets. Thanks a lot, New Zealand. So anyway, they went with 4 groups of 3 teams. Kind of stupid, don't you think? Anyway, Poland were drawing the Soviets and Belgium. Now, the problem was that Poland and the Soviet Union in their final group stage game actually had a bit of conflict because the Soviets were trying to roll tanks into Poland and all that, put Poland under communist rule and all that. Lots of ex-Polish people would basically hang banners and all that. Obviously, FIFA tried their best to make sure that the crowd shots didn't include those banners and all that. Poland won the day. I mean, they crushed Belgium in defined powder 3-0, but the Soviets only managed to beat Belgium 1-0. So Poland, with the 0-0 tie against the Soviets, moved on to the semifinals. In Group B, West Germany had England and Spain. England was kind of screwed over. Despite the fact that England tied Germany and Spain, they didn't get in because Germany beat Spain. You have to win games. England didn't give up a goal to West Germany or Spain in that stage, but they didn't score either. Like, what the hell? How can you be so docile? And to add that one of the members of the '82 England squad just died recently, Paul Mariner. Group C saw Italy, Brazil, and Argentina, kind of the group of death because those 3 were great soccer nations. Italy beat Argentina 2-1. Brazil beat Argentina 3-1, so Argentina, the World Cup champions, the defending World Cup champions, were out. So now it's down to Italy and Brazil. Brazil had a better goal differential because they beat Argentina by 2, whereas Italy beat by 1. So Brazil needed a win or a tie to knock Italy out. And the magic of one Paulo Rossi ruined Brazil. Some say the 82% were the best team never to win the title. I say bullshit. It's the 74 Dutch. But anyway, Paulo Rossi had a tough time because in 1980 he was found guilty of taking bribes to fix soccer matches and was banned from international football for 3 years. And then it was commuted to 2 years for good behavior. And then Italy decided to put him on the roster for the World Cup, and people were like, he's nothing. But Paolo Rossi in the second group stage actually came alive with that hat trick against Brazil, and then people started to warm up to him. Meanwhile, in Group D, France were the only team to win a match with Austria and Northern Ireland. Austria tied Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland had a chance to maybe win and put pressure on France, but they didn't. They tied, and France crushed Northern Ireland in fine powder. So the semifinal happened. The first semifinal over in Barcelona saw Italy beat Poland 2-0 as Paolo Rossi again put up goals. He put up both Italy goals. And the second semifinal in Seville had one of the most controversial matches of all time. Yes, that was the matchup when Harald Schumacher, the German goalie, knocked himself kind of deliberately into French player Patrick Battiston while going for a ball. Basically, Battiston was unconscious. He lost some teeth. He had a few broken vertebrae. Schumacher was not sent off, even though the red and yellow card system was in place, and they just ordered a goal kick. What the fuck? Now, France almost got Germany's goat in extra time. It was 1-1 after the 90 minutes. Litbarski and Platini scored. And then France scored twice on goals by Tresor and Ellen Jarras. And France was going to beat Germany, and it would have been like, it didn't matter anyway. He hurt Battiston, and now Germany's out. However, they scored goals by Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and Klaus Fischer to tie it. They went through penalties, 6 rounds of penalties. Germany missed one, Stielke. France missed one with Didier 6, and also Bossis missed his kick, which meant that Germany got into the final. And this was the first World Cup penalty shootout. France would suffer another massive embarrassment as they lost the third place game to Poland 3-2 on goals by Smaresh, Majewski, and Kubicewicz. It's weird how the great George Lato, I don't think he played for the 82 Poles, but George Lato. But anyway, yeah, great job by Poland to take down France. And then in the final, Italy won 3-1 on goals by Rossi, Tardelli, and Altobelli. Germany got a goal by Paul Breitner, but it was too little too late. Paolo Rossi, the guy who everyone was like, what the hell is he doing in this tournament? He ended up winning the Golden Boot for scoring 6 goals. He broke the tie with Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. But anyway, Paolo Rossi was an icon and all that. It was huge and all that. And as I said, 1986 would be a whole different kettle of fish, as basically they still had 24 teams, but they went with knockout stages for 16 teams and all that. And I think a lot of third place teams would be happy with that. Algeria definitely would have been one team that would have got in. My guess is that, let's see here. Nope. My guess is that Algeria, Hungary, Yugoslavia, and Scotland would have got into the tournament based on points scored and then their goal differential. Yeah, Hungary would have got in because of that big win over Honduras. But unfortunately, Hungary's thing was too little too late. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Ado.